Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere is the newest addition to the biopic world of filmmaking, so is it any good? If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on push notifications, but let's get into today's review. I was very excited for this movie. I've heard a lot of good things from it since it premiered in September, but since then, I've seen the reviews drastically become very hit or miss. Now, no, you shouldn't take any reviews to heart. You should make it based off of your own opinion, so that's exactly what I did. I went and saw this movie, and I absolutely loved it. There's really not much that I didn't like about this movie. Everything about it I found to be very moving, very personal, and I very much enjoyed it. Jeremy Allen White does a fantastic job, as we all pretty much thought he was going to, but there are just some moments in this movie that really just blew me away. So this movie doesn't particularly follow the entire story of Bruce Springsteen, as a lot of biopics typically do. Biopics will typically follow the entire life story of one singular person, but this movie does something different in which it just follows one particular moment in his life, in which it's basically about him, not basically, it is about him, and his creative process behind making the Nebraska album, while also making the hit song Born in the USA that would put him into the insanely high standard star. And what Jeremy Allen White was able to do with capturing his presence and his voice is just astounding. There's a moment in the movie where he's singing Born in the USA, which isn't really a spoiler, but he is singing Born in the USA, and I was like, I need to look up if this was actually him singing it or if it was just dubbed over with Bruce Springsteen's real voice. I know that he was going to be singing in this movie, but I did not know that he was going to belt it that well. And he actually sang it. He sang Born in the USA, and it sounds, I'm not kidding you, it sounds identical. It sounds identical, except with a little bit of Jeremy Allen White thrown into it. It sounds so good. He deserves an Oscar just for his singing performance for Born in the USA. It is actually scary how good it is. But if there was one thing in this movie that I think they could have done a little bit better on, I think that would be with Bruce Springsteen and his love interest, because I think they were headed in the right direction with, you know, him dealing with his trauma, his depression, and how all that stuff kind of more or less just damages every other aspect of his life. And with him and his love interest in this movie, it's kind of brushed over in the sense of like all of the necessarily like bad or just kind of self-harm that he does to himself. Like he pushes people away, but they don't really show that in the movie. I think that stuff is a little bit brushed over and was a little bit distracting, but wasn't that big of a deal. Because this movie is so much more than just a movie that's highlighting the bad parts about Bruce Springsteen, which is something I really appreciate about it. I feel like biopics tend to really delve into that idea that the person that whatever biopic is they're trying to portray them as a portrait of something that they've done. Like if they were someone that did a lot of messed up stuff in their career, that's the only thing that the biopic would be about. Or if they were heavily depressed, that's the only thing that the biopic would be about. It was just like, this movie felt so refreshing in the sense that it tackled it, but it wasn't the main focus. I personally felt very attached to it because the movie is about finding your comfort zone or finding your place to work that you can really just get your best workout possible. And since I have recently moved into my own office to give me that opportunity of being able to do the best work that I possibly can, I personally connected with the movie in the sense that your best work comes from areas that you can just be with yourself. There aren't any distractions. There aren't any people telling you that you're doing things incorrectly. There are just, you do it the way you want, and you deal with like the consequences of how you do it then later. Also, a lot of biopics tend to be about shitty managers, and this was not. This movie was about a good manager, and I like that. Not necessarily saying that, you know, every person has a good manager, but movies tend to make that one of the big plot points, is that like, oh, this manager was bad, so that's why this singer was so messed up in the head. This manager, John Landau, was a very good, guy, a very good role model to Bruce Springsteen. And they worked together to get Bruce Springsteen's mind and all of his work out into the world. I think the way that Scott Cooper was able to capture all of this essence of Bruce Springsteen into a 2-hour runtime was very well done. Because like I said at the beginning, this movie is not about the entire life of Bruce Springsteen. It tackles some trauma that he had at a younger age. It tackles his depression and how it affects certain aspects of his life. But most importantly, it tackles his mind. It tackles how he comes up with his musical concepts and how, he doesn't necessarily attach on to the ideas of what an album should be, but what an album could be. It's all about being personal. It's all about being the truest version of yourself. And if that means taking those big, bold steps, it just means you have to take those big, bold steps. And that's one reason why Bruce Springsteen is probably one of the most divisive artists in the world. If you're a Bruce Springsteen fan, you are a Bruce Springsteen fan. If you don't like Bruce Springsteen, it's not that you don't like him a little bit or you wish he did something different with his music. You just don't like his music. If you like his music, you love his music. There really is no in between with Bruce Springsteen. And I think that's what makes him such an interesting person. A lot of people are going to complain about why there's a biopic being made about him, even though he's still alive. First off, that's kind of rude in its own right. I think that if someone is truly passionate about someone else and they want to make a biopic about someone, then they should, like Scott Cooper was. But this movie was excellent. I found this movie to be so moving. I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. I was expecting to like it, and I was expecting to enjoy Jeremy Allen White's performance. But there wasn't really a part of me that was like, you know what, I'm going to go into this movie and really love it. Especially after some of the reviews that have come out recently. It hasn't been getting a lot of good reviews, but I found it to be so original. I mean, if you can even call a biopic original, if we're talking about the standard of what a biopic is, this is definitely one of the best biopics that I've ever seen. And maybe that is a big stretch, but I freaking loved this movie. I think Jeremy Allen White and Jeremy Strong are fantastic on screen together. They did a fantastic job portraying their characters. And I really just wish that more biopics were capable of doing something different, doing something that's bold, doing something that, you can't just sit there and be like, okay, people are going to love this. Because biopic haters are probably not going to like this movie. People that like biopics that are concert, driven, that have a lot of concert or a lot of music sequences, probably not going to like this movie. Because, no, the music, ironically enough, is not the main aspect of this movie. It really isn't. It's a big part of it, but really it's about Bruce Springsteen and how he navigates his mind to really get his message out, even if it's a message that isn't going to be clear. It is something that's personal to him, and that's why it's personal to the people that love Bruce Springsteen. And I think Scott Cooper did a fantastic job really understanding that concept. He didn't dive into, the standards of what people like from biopics. He wanted to make a movie that understood certain aspects of someone. And that is something that I really, really appreciate about this movie. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere was a very good movie. One that shocked me. One that surprised me beyond belief. I did not think that I was going to like this movie as much as I did. I found it to be very emotional. I cried at a couple moments. There are just some very tender and some very on edge moments where you really need to just sit there and just take in all of the emotions, not really understand everything, but just understand that there is something broken within our characters. And that's where we can really, truly understand our emotions when it comes to the characters on screen. And Scott Cooper did it so beautifully. And the actors, Jeremy Strong, Jeremy Allen White, Stephen Graham, they all did fantastic. Stephen Graham is very underrated. I think he's underutilized in film. He's in a lot of shows, but he's a very good actor too. And he's really good in this. His presence was just very emotional, and I loved it. So yeah, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Let me know what you thought about this movie in the comment section below. I'm very excited to see what you think because I personally found it to be exceptional. I love this movie, and I don't love biopics. Like when I see a biopic, it's kind of just like, oh yeah, that was fine. But like this was one of the best biopics that I've seen. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you thought. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on push notifications. But that does bring you to the end of today's video. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of it. I appreciate every single one of you. But remember, your movie moment is right around the corner. See you in the next video.